Hey friends, it's TJ. So today I'm having some chai tea. One of my favorites for this time of year when it's starting to get a little cold outside. But question for you. Have you ever thought about those conversations that you have with yourself? I thought so. Let's dive in. So I used to be a real self-critic, right? I used to beat myself up about not getting things right the first time and feeling like I wasn't enough. But then I realized the negative self talk was not conducive to the life that I wanted for myself, and that questioning my worth and my abilities was starting to get like exhausting. And so I began to start practicing positive self talk. I can't remember, it was a few years ago. I think it was on um, Super Soul Sunday, and they were talking about affirmations and how to get to your most authentic self and how we speak things out into the world and we say things to ourselves that if we're not careful, those things can manifest in a way. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but I remember it was on Super Soul Sunday. But I started to try that for myself, right? And it wasn't one of those things where it affected me outwardly where I couldn't do my job or like be creative or any of those things. It was more like not feeling competitive enough, right? Or feeling left behind. And so when I started to implement like the positive self-talk practice, it really started to make a difference for me. And it started small by like saving quotes that spoke to me, that inspired me, and ultimately the person that I wanted to become and wanted to be. There's a quote that my brother says all the time that I like wrote it down in my notes to just keep to reflect and meditate on. But I can't remember who it's from, but it is every day is a chance to get it right. And it started with quotes like that really kind of helped shape the person that I am and that I'm becoming each and every day. I took that specific quote and meditated on it and, reminded myself that just because something happened or I didn't accomplish something in a day doesn't mean that I can't try again tomorrow, right? That each day is an opportunity and a chance to get something right, to grow and to keep moving forward. And I do feel like we sometimes get stuck in this loathing state where we don't want to acknowledge to ourselves that every moment is an opportunity to move forward towards who you ultimately want to be. And so I started using affirmations to also kind of engage with myself in a positive way, to see things in a different light, to try to appreciate things as they are, until I can get to where I want to be, right? And so one of the affirmations that I started with was I am loved, because I knew it to be true, right? And it's one of those things that for myself I overlooked because I've been in things so long that I kind of forgot, right? I forgot that I actually have a lot of people who genuinely love and care about me and care about my well-being. And so I would repeat that to myself in the mornings as I'm getting ready, to just kind of boost my confidence, right? To get out of the little rut that I was in at the time. And I started using that and like meditating while I was going to the gym. And slowly it became kind of like a daily practice to where like I moved up from quotes into the affirmations of I am beautiful, I am loved, I am cared for, I am talented, just to reaffirm to myself that all of those things are true. And I have space in this world where I can progress through life knowing that I'm good enough. And I realized during that time, like a few months later, how more confident I was, how happier I was, because I no longer felt like I wasn't enough. Um, and then I started to understand that I have authority to be in control of my own life and my own happiness, right? And it allowed me to be soft with myself, and to be more in tune with my body and my mind. And during that time is when I picked up that language of being soft with myself, because I realized that, we go through life and we have these moments of self-doubt and lack of confidence, and it can take a toll on you, and it can really ruin your self-esteem. And I feel like in larger cities, when markets are much larger and there's so much competition, you're constantly comparing yourself to the next person, right? When the reality is that there's one you. There is one you who can do what you do, and there's one of them who can do what they do, right? And the balance in all of that is sometimes it's you and sometimes it's the other person. Um, but I really started to understand and speak to myself, to be softer with myself, um, so that I could allow myself to be more open and allow myself to be more in tune with my body and my mind, so that I could go out and produce good work, so that I could go out and love, whomever. I could go out and be this outwardly compassionate person in the world, in hopes that it comes back to me without the expectation that it will. Um, and I will say positive talk is not about ignoring your flaws, right? I think that can be a misconception when it comes to affirmations and quotes and trying to be more positive about yourself. Because at least for myself, in this positive self-talk, it allowed me to acknowledge my flaws, to come to terms with them, to be okay with them, um, and to also acknowledge my strengths and to affirm those and to affirm my worth and to say, yes, I may not be great at this thing, but I'm great at these five things. Like, I know that I'm great at those five things. And I will say that I'll challenge you to, if you are struggling with that, self-esteem or that lack of confidence, to break down those things that you have, right? To really consider, what are you great at, right? What do you know to be true that you are great at? And acknowledge those things with yourself, because sometimes we we can we can kind of self-sabotage ourselves because we, again, are comparing ourselves to someone else and what you don't have, right? And what they have, when the reality is that you really should be focusing on the strengths that you have and the things that you can provide and the things that are of value that you have as an individual. And so after I started the affirmations and the quotes and understood, my self-worth, I started to replace the self-criticism with self-encouragement. Um, and when I would catch myself thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to get this job because I'm not the right type, um, I stopped doing that. And I said to myself, if this job is right for me, they'll see what I can offer. They can see the perspective that I have to tell this story a certain way. Um, and I think in that self encouragement, I also learned to say that I'm learning, and I'll get better at things. That I'm not perfect, and that's okay. This false expectation of perfectionism does not exist, right? That no one expects you to be perfect, especially if you're new to something. And really understanding and finally wrapping my brain around that idea, uh, allowed me to say, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I can learn. and I can get better, and I can take incremental steps to try to achieve whatever that goal is, right? To try to get on the other side of that hump. Um, and I think that idea of self encouragement led me to the destination of self love, which I think is one of those things that we never truly explore, um, and we kind of ignore it a little bit. But it's a crucial part, I think, in self esteem and strength and affirming your worth, is being able to love yourself as you are, um, and to be able to reframe things that you aren't good at, to say, I can do this instead of I can't do this, or I may not be able to do this now, but I will in some time, and being okay with that time. Because ultimately, we all deserve love and care, right? Like it's not a luxury. We all deserve it, and I think the more we can realize and understand and comprehend that, the better off we'll be. So I want to leave this with you today, friends. Encourage yourself, love yourself, and believe in yourself, and never doubt who you are. And with that, I'll see you next week.